Hi everyone, Tom here in Oliver, BC, Canada. We purchased our 2023 Niro EV on August 3rd this year from Penticton Kia. And before I go any further, I just want to give a shout out to our sales associate Jackson, who's been very attentive to our questions as we migrate to an electric vehicle. So today is November 17th. It's getting a little cooler outside. So I've been asked what our experience has been with the range on the Niro EV as the outside temperature starts to drop. I think there are several factors that combine to reduce range in different ways during the colder months. There may be a slight reduction in range simply due to the colder weather and colder battery temperature. Now, we also have our winter tires mounted now, so that may have some impact. Our tires are Michelin X-Ice snow tires, which have a good reputation for both grip and low rolling resistance. These have been on our car for about 3 weeks now. And just an interesting side note, the Niro EV owner's manual recommends that winter tires be inflated to 4 psi more than what the sticker behind the driver's door recommends for summer or all-season tires. So that would be 36 psi on the sticker, plus 4 psi for a total of 40. Our tires are inflated currently to a cold pressure of 39, which does increase to 40 or 41 psi after a bit of driving. That should help mitigate range reduction from winter tires. But I think the number one impact on range is how much you used your cabin heater during cold weather. Now, I did a full charge today on a public level 2 charger, and I took some notes and photos to share with you. In this first photo of the dash I took just before connecting to the charger, you'll note several things. Number one, we just hit 6,000 kilometers exactly on the odometer. The outside temperature is 2 degrees Celsius. So it's getting a little brisk. The distance driven since the last charge, which is about a week ago, is shown as 326.4 kilometers. Now, about half of this was highway driving between 80 and 100 kilometers per hour. The rest was shorter trips around town. Now, the estimated remaining range on the battery is shown as 48 kilometers. So the total range from full to empty would be about 374. So that's the 326 driven plus the 48 still left. Now 374 is down a little bit from Kia's claim of 470 kilometers for this car. But since the last charge, the car was driven almost exclusively in eco mode and regenerative braking set to a maximum level. So there's definitely been a reduction because of the cold. And I think since the last charge, we did use the heater from time to time, so that has affected the range, I think mostly, but more on that a little bit later. Anyway, after I plugged in the charger, the car indicates it's receiving 10 kilowatts of power and estimates 6.5 hours to a full charge. This is a bit lower power than I usually get at this location, which typically delivers around 11 kilowatts. I don't know if the level 2 charger is delivering less power because of the temperature, or if the car is unable to use the full capacity of its onboard 11 kilowatt AC charger, again, because of the temperature. Now, I did come back a couple hours later and I took a look partway through the charge, and I noticed that the power had increased from 10 kilowatts to just over 11, which is where it normally is. Maybe things are warming up, I don't know. The next picture is another look that I took shortly before the charge was completed. Notice how the power level is dropped to 5.5 kilowatts now in the final 20 minutes or so. And oddly enough, it basically stayed at 20 minutes remaining until it just stopped. And then when it stopped, it's at 100. So you couldn't see any progression really past the 20-minute mark. Anyway, right after the charge, the car, as you see, had an estimated range of about 416 kilometers. Now, this is exactly the same estimate that I received following a full charge a couple of weeks ago, which turned out to only be 374 kilometers range, or 42 kilometers less in real life. And I should say that the full estimate that I'm showing here is with the heat turned off. So I tried to see impact of a few different heat settings. First, I turned the heat to 20 degrees Celsius with the fan at a low idle speed 1. The result on the range estimate lowered by 12 kilometers from 416 down to 404. Then by turning up the fan level from 1 to 2, the range dropped a further 5 kilometers to 399 kilometers. Next, I turned the heat up to 23 degrees Celsius and the fan level to 3, and this dropped the estimated range from the 416 to start down to 390. And now this is a decrease of 26 kilometers. So just one more look. There's by turning the heat to driver only, which directs whatever heat is being generated just to the driver's seat. And I left the temperature and fan settings the same, so 23 Celsius and fan level at 3. I was able to regain about 4 kilometers of the estimated range, so 394-ish. I then turned the heat off again, and I noted that the range popped right back up to 415. Now, this is down 1 kilometer from the original 416 estimate, but the battery may have lost a bit of charge by having me turn on the heat for my different tests, or it may just be settling in after the charge. Anyway, so we're at 415. So next, I left the cabin heat off, but turned on the heated steering wheel and the heated seats to full. Now the range remained at 415. So it seems that the cabin heater has an effect, but the heated seats and heated steering wheel really don't. So the moral of the story, if you want to maximize your range in cooler weather, wear a coat or a sweater, turn on the seat heaters, heated steering wheel, keep the cabin heater used to a minimum, and drive in eco mode. So 3 parting observations if you're driving in cool weather on range. If you're driving close to home or on short trips where you don't have to recharge, I think you can count on a 350 kilometer usable range and leaving about 20 to 25 kilometers in reserve. If you need to stop at a DC fast charger along the way, though, you should do that before the battery drops below 20%. And because this is the level where the battery preconditioning stops working, trying to save your last remaining range. So in order to have an efficient fast charge, you should precondition your batteries, and you have to do that above 20%. So if you arrive at a fast charger with 20% left, you can bring that up to 80%. And so you've got 80% of 374, which is just under 300 kilometers. So you should have that similar range to get back home again. But the tricky part, I think, is if you're going on a longer trip where you want to stop at multiple DC chargers along the way, remember you only get an 80% charge each time, and that you want to start charging before you drop to 20%. So the effective range between fast chargers will only be 60% of your battery capacity. So you're going from a minimum of 20 to a maximum of 80. So if the full capacity is 374 in cooler weather, your efficient distance between fast charges should be less than 60% of 374 in cooler weather. This is only about 224 kilometers maximum, and I would round that down to 220 or a little bit shorter than that. And that's it for my thoughts on range. Thanks for listening.